A whole new world of tariffs. Thanks, Trump. Welcome to the show, diving into global trade post-Trump's trade war. We're talking tariffs, economic sanctions nobody wants but everyone deals with. Trump slapped tariffs on China, and the world held its breath. Things got complicated. Explore key shifts in global trade from this trade war. Buckle up for economic jargon and geopolitical drama. Welcome to our deep dive into global trade changes post-Trump's tariffs. So, remember when Trump promised to bring back manufacturing jobs to America? Well, turns out it's not as simple as just slapping a tariff on Chinese goods and watching factories magically sprout up across the Midwest. In fact, it's had the opposite effect. See, businesses, those bastions of logic and efficiency, hate uncertainty. And tariffs, they're like the embodiment of uncertainty. Companies started relocating their manufacturing bases to countries not subject to these new tariffs. Vietnam, Mexico, Bangladesh. They all became the cool kids on the global manufacturing block. Remember those manufacturing jobs Trump promised to bring back? Yeah, some of them actually ended up moving away. Now, you'd think that after seeing the US slap tariffs on China, other countries would be like, maybe we shouldn't poke the eagle. But no, that's not how international trade works. China, being the economic powerhouse that it is, wasn't about to take these tariffs lying down. They retaliated with their own set of tariffs on US goods. And then the EU got involved, and Canada, and Mexico. It became a full-blown tariff tango with everyone stepping on each other's toes and blaming the music. This tit-for-tat tariff war has dragged on for years, creating uncertainty in the global market and disrupting long-established trade flows. And the worst part? There's no clear winner in sight. Remember high school cliques? The global economy is now similar. With the US embracing protectionism, other countries sought reliable partners. This led to regional trade agreements like CPTPP and the EU-Japan Economic Partnership Agreement. But these blocs risk fragmenting the global economy. The US and China. It's complicated, to say the least. The US and China, two economic titans locked in a geopolitical tango that's equal parts fascinating and terrifying. Trump's trade war only served to exacerbate the already tense relationship between these two superpowers, pushing them further apart and setting the stage for a decoupling of epic proportions. This decoupling is not just about trade, it's about everything: investment, technology, even cultural exchange. The Trump administration viewed China's economic rise as a threat to American dominance, and they weren't afraid to use every tool in their arsenal, tariffs, sanctions, investment restrictions, to try and slow it down. This decoupling has had far-reaching consequences, disrupting global supply chains, fueling technological competition, and creating a climate of uncertainty. The world watches in disbelief and slight panic. The US and China's economic tug-of-war left the world in disbelief and panic. The U.S. quote, "As protectionism shocked the global community, countries re-evaluated their strategies. The EU doubled down on free trade. Others saw opportunities in the chaos. The result? A more uncertain global trade landscape." Consumers, the unintended, but totally predictable, victims. Now let's talk about the real victims in this whole trade war saga: consumers. See, tariffs, those pesky little taxes on imported goods, have a nasty habit of trickling down to the consumer. When the cost of imported goods goes up, businesses have two choices: absorb the cost themselves, spoiler alert, they rarely do, or pass it on to consumers in the form of higher prices. This increase in the cost of living has put a strain on household budgets, forcing families to make tough choices about their spending. It's like a financial game of Jenga, where each tariff is like another block being pulled out, making the whole structure increasingly unstable. The automotive industry, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. The automotive industry, that behemoth of manufacturing and global supply chains, found itself caught directly in the crosshairs of Trump's trade war. Trump decided to slap tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, key components in car manufacturing. And guess what? Cars got more expensive. These tariffs disrupted the global automotive industry, leading to higher production costs, factory closures, and job losses. The tariffs also accelerated the shift towards electric vehicles as car manufacturers sought to reduce their reliance on traditional tariff-laden materials. The automotive industry is still grappling with the fallout from these tariffs, navigating a landscape of uncertainty and adapting to a new era of global trade. Steel and aluminum, more than just metal. Steel and aluminum, those seemingly mundane materials, found themselves at the heart of Trump's trade war. Trump's tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, ostensibly aimed at protecting American jobs and industries, ended up having ripple effects that were felt far beyond the factory floor. These tariffs sent prices soaring, disrupting supply chains and forcing businesses to scramble for alternative sources. While the tariffs did provide a temporary boost to some domestic steel and aluminum producers, they also led to job losses in industries that rely on these metals, like manufacturing and construction. The tariffs highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy, demonstrating how even seemingly small actions can have far-reaching consequences. WTO, the World Trade Referee, throws a flag and everyone ignores it. The World Trade Organization, WTO, that bastion of international trade rules and dispute resolution, found itself caught in the crossfire of Trump's trade war. The WTO, often described as the policeman of global trade, is supposed to ensure that countries play by the rules and resolve their differences amicably. However, Trump's tariffs, many of which were imposed on dubious national security grounds, tested the limits of the WTO's authority. The US, under the Trump administration, also blocked appointments to the WTO's appellate body, effectively crippling its ability to issue binding rulings. The WTO, weakened and undermined, struggled to maintain its relevance in the face of Trump's trade war. Currency markets, where the dollar makes a run for it. The global currency markets weren't spared the turmoil of Trump's trade war. Currency values fluctuated wildly in response to the uncertainty and volatility. The US dollar's dominance was challenged as investors sought refuge in other currencies. These fluctuations made it difficult for businesses to plan and invest. Central banks adjusted their policies to stabilize currencies and mitigate economic fallout. It was like steering a ship through a storm, requiring a steady hand and a bit of luck. Protectionism, the America First virus, goes global. Protectionism, that seductive but ultimately self-defeating economic ideology, reared its ugly head in the wake of Trump's trade war. Trump's America First rhetoric, with its emphasis on tariffs, trade barriers, and economic nationalism, resonated with some segments of the American public, but it also emboldened like-minded leaders around the world. Suddenly it seemed like everyone was jumping on the protectionist bandwagon, erecting trade barriers and engaging in tit-for-tat tariff battles. This rise in protectionism threatened to unravel decades of progress toward free trade and globalization. The consequences of this protectionist wave were felt far and wide, leading to higher prices for consumers, reduced choices, and slower economic growth. American farmers, caught in the crossfire and losing money hand over fist. American farmers, the backbone of US agriculture, were hit hard by Trump's trade war. China retaliated with tariffs on soybeans, pork, and corn, devastating farmers. Prices plummeted, markets were lost, and produce piled up. Subsidies offered little relief for the lost markets. Many farmers faced debt, selling their farms, or foreclosure. Investment, the lifeblood of economic growth, took a hit as Trump's trade war injected uncertainty into the global economy. Businesses thrive on predictability and stability. The unpredictable trade war made it difficult for businesses to plan for the future. Businesses pulled back on investment, delaying expansion and hiring. This decline deflated global economic growth, affecting jobs and wages. Technology and intellectual property became contentious as Trump's trade war raged on. The US accused China of unfair trade practices, including forced technology transfer and intellectual property theft. These accusations fueled a technological arms race for economic and strategic dominance. The Trump administration imposed tariffs and restricted Chinese investment in sensitive sectors. China responded with its own measures, creating a technological divide and slowing innovation. This battle shaped the future of innovation, competition, and global power balance. The US, once the champion of free trade, saw its role challenged as Trump's trade war raged on. Trump's America First agenda alienated allies and left a vacuum in global trade leadership. China, the EU, and Japan stepped in, vying for influence in global trade. The EU emerged as a leading voice for free trade. China promoted its Belt and Road Initiative as an alternative to the US-led order. This shift had profound implications for trade, investment, and geopolitics. So there you have it, folks, the lasting impact of Trump's trade war on the global trade landscape. It's been a wild ride through tariffs, trade wars, and enough economic jargon to make even the most seasoned economist reach for a stiff drink. The world is a different place than it was before Trump's trade war, and the aftershocks of those policies will continue to be felt for years to come. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.